This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
Chapter 31. The Woman of Tanchico, and her symbol is the harp. Do you know why?
I think there's someone who plays a harp in this chapter. Taham, I think his name is.
Thom?
Thomas? Something like that, yeah.
The common room of the inn was brightly lit. The tables not near a quarter full so late. A few white-aproned servant women with mugs of ale or wine passed among the men, and a lower murmur of talk ran under the sound of a harp being strummed and plucked. The patrons, some with pipes clenched in their teeth, and one pair hunched over a stone's board, had the look of ship's officers and minor merchants, from smaller houses, their coats well cut and of fine wool, but with none of the gold or silver embroidery that richer men might have had. And for once there was no clack and rattle of dice to be heard. Fires blazed on the long hearths at the ends of the room, but even without those there would have been a warm feeling about the place. The harper stood on the tabletop, reciting Mara and the Three Foolish Kings, to the music of his harp. His instrument, all worked in gold and silver, was fit for a palace. Matt knew him. He had saved Matt's life once.
Hi, Tom. So this is probably a higher class inn. There's no dice going on. There's a nice harper in the corner.
Yeah, it seems like kind of like a middle class. He said like officers and like nobody's gambling, and there's like two guys.
There's probably not a lot of noblemen there, but at the same time, it's like...
Not like rich, but like not wasted people gambling their paychecks away either.
It's where my parents would eat.
Where Matt just came from.
Yeah.
Matt notes his limp as he walks around the tabletop. Says, so Tom's standing on a table.
And he notices the look of sorrow in his eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, this is Tom post-Denna.
It's only been like a few months.
Right. So the love of his life was killed. He went and killed the king of Cairhien.
Yeah.
And then fled here.
Into the bottom of a wine barrel.
Into the worst possible city he could think of. Right to Tarvalin, where he is not wanted.
Matt doesn't notice yet, but Tom is wasted.
Wasted.
His blue eyes held a look of sorrow as he recited. The look was as unexpected as the man. Matt had never known Tom Maryland to be a sorrowful man. Matt ordered 2 mugs of something and waits for Tom to be done. And he gives the waitress a silver penny for her pretty eyes. This is the new Matt, guys.
I'd like to just start off by making a point that I think whenever Robert Jordan says pretty eyes, he means nice boobs.
Kind of like the hips butt thing that
exactly.
we talk about sometimes.
And the reverse is true. When the girl slips Matt a coin for his, quote, pretty eyes, I think she's saying nice butt.
You look good too, kid.
That's just my headcanon. Feel free to disagree. With the whole saying, my eyes are up here. Mm-hmm. He's looking at her, quote unquote, eyes.
Her pretty eyes.
Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of times when someone has large eyes.
Are you serious about this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like not just being funny?
No, I'm 100% serious. I do think that Robert Jordan is using eyes as a euphemism for boobs.
What do you think, Chosen?
Yeah, Aradia's agreeing with me there. She's like, it gets a little more blatant.
I respect Aradia's opinion.
It's definitely not...
good point.
It's a timeline thing. It's like when... These were sort of the common euphemisms that authors used in this genre during this time. And big eyes was definitely not a unique thing to Robert Jordan.
And this was published, like
92?
30 years ago. 25 years ago. 92?
That's I think so. Check the book. Because Eye of the World was 90 and it released Great Hunt 91, Dragon Reborn 92.
Yeah, that sounds right. My paperback copy says copyright 91, but that doesn't mean it was released.
Sure, 91, 92, yeah.
Man, these are pretty old books.
So wait, how many years ago is that?
So it's 2018 to 91 is...
27 years.
Yeah, it's almost as old as me. Anyway, Tom is startled to see Matt, and I just kind of noticed the last line of Tom's story. I wondered about the story. I should maybe Google it to see how much there is, but...
Mara and the Three Kings?
Yeah.
We see him bring it up a few times. He talks about it in the Eye of the World. He also mentions it right before he goes and kills King of Cairhien.
Yeah, we were talking about that a little while we were doing our notes for this episode, and he tells the story of Mara and the Three Kings before he kills a king. And of course, the story Mara and the Three Kings is about three foolish kings. It's about like a village woman outwitting kings.
Yeah, I feel like there's three contenders for the kings, and they end up like slipping in the mud to get a crown. And I bet the rules are whoever comes back with the crown gets to be king, and Mara happens by and just grabs it.
Mara steals the crowns of Kings Model, Orinder, and Kadar, and then leaves them floundering in the mud next to a river assumed to be nearby Heap, which is like a city. When the residents of Heap hear how foolish the kings were, they decide that they will have no king. It's a personal favorite of Tom, who is known to have recounted it in the following places.
I feel like that name in and of itself is a bit of a joke. Like, check out this heap of trash over there. That's where I live, in this heap. That's where I'm sort of imagining a much longer story in my head with lots of puns and back and forth and
I'm sure.
Like Pratt jokes and, funny voices and stuff like that. And so like the idea of like what you could use heap as in like wordplay in terms of jokes and like Shakespearean fun would be a lot.
He tells the story 5 different times in the series. One in Emond's Field, one during the journey to Berlon, when he's in the manor house of Barthanes. So when he's like entertaining the court there, he tells the court the story of the foolish kings. I thought that was interesting. Just in this chapter and Three Plum Court and Tanchico.
I'm nodding.
We both thought that was relevant. It feels like he's kind of...
He likes to comment on what's going on around him.
The story he tells is relevant to what's happening around him.
Right.
He tells the story, everybody loves it. Tom tries to get down from the table and almost falls on his face because he's wasted. I'm skipping over a bit here, but yeah.
Plops down. Oh, he is drinking wine. He buried his face in his wine.
Yeah.
Not beer.
He dropped onto a stool in front of the second mug and gave Matt a flat stare. His eyes had always been sharp as awls, but they seemed to be having trouble focusing.
Because he's drunk.
And then he makes fun of the patrons, which is something he does all the time.
Because they have terrible taste. Clearly. He knows the right way to sing these songs.
Matt could not recall ever seeing Tom finish playing that harp without immediately putting it away in its hard leather case. He had never seen him the worse for drink. It was a relief to hear the gleeman complaining about his listeners. Tom never thought their standards were as high as his. At least something of him had not changed. Because he just put his harp down and walked off.
Yeah. He's lost a lot of his motivation and his drive. I feel like that's what's missing, is that
he's depressed and
he's depressed. Drunk. Yeah, and it has nothing to do. He's like, I'll just sit in this inn and earn my keeping and sing the same stupid songs over again and fuck this.
Yeah. F everything.
That was for you. Go ahead and call the cops.
One of the chosen brought up in Discord before we started recording that they've never heard Seth say the F word before in all our hundreds of hours of conversation.
Which I just don't believe. So here we go.
I'm not about to go all the way back through to check.
Time for a re-listen.
Serving girl says, if I had known that it was him you were ordering a second beer for, I wouldn't have let you because he's cut off.
So can I go meta on this conversation?
Sure.
This is a conversation between a man and a woman trying to accomplish a similar goal, but through lack of communication, they both manage to accomplish the opposite of what they're trying to do.
Is that, do you think that might be a running theme in the Wheel of Time?
I don't know. Does miscommunication cause problems between men and women in the Wheel of Time? I've never... Gosh, I wonder if I can think of any other examples.
I can't think of any.
Anyways, I guess I really wasn't on to anything with that. So let's just skip right over that point. I'll cut
keep
that
an eye out for it. Yeah.
So here's my question. This hot waitress tells Tom, I've slipped a warming pan in your bed. You can tell me all about the court in Camelin.
It'll be warm in there, Tom.
Do you think she's sleeping with him? Or do you think she's just like sitting by his bed?
This isn't even like a light implication, I think. Like, this is like,
It's like
let me take you to bed. I'll be there a while with you.
nodding.
Period.
Nodding.
Yeah, right, Aradia. And her sister's there too, but I think she kind of, well, Matt leaves, but it gets a little winky there for a second.
Two sisters with big eyes. Sorry, beautiful eyes. Pretty Mata, pretty Saul. Did I ever tell you that two pretty women have loved me in my life?
You've told us all about it, Tom.
That's what makes me wonder. Is like, are these women really sleeping with him if he's telling them about the other pretty women he slept with? That seems like kind of a dick move.
You know, it happens. I don't know. You mean a dick move on Tom's part?
Yeah, to kind of be like, if he's sleeping with them, to be talking about his exes. This is why I think she's just going to put him to bed and like sit by his bed and like
Maybe
listen to his stories. You could go either way. You could totally make this Tom dirty threesome with two hot women, or
drunk grandpa
with two women sitting by his bedside and taking care of him.
Yeah.
And they just care about him because he's, clearly hurt and broken and sad.
I will take care of him, Matt said. Mata and Saul were both glaring at him now. He gave them his best smile, but it did not work. His stomach muttered loudly, "Don't I smell chicken roasting? Bring me 3 or 4. The two women blinked and exchanged startled looks when he added, "Do you want something to eat too, Tom?"
And I got to say, on the previous podcast, I was totally wrong. You said 3 or 4, and I said 6.
Oh, I
Yeah. I just got to,
only vaguely remembered.
Call myself out when I'm wrong,
Next thing I have is, Rand said you were alive, he told Tom, when Mata and Saul were out of hearing. Moraine always said she thought you were, but I heard you were in Cairhien and meaning to go on to Tyr. Rand is still well, then? Tom's eyes sharpened to almost the keenness Matt remembered. I'm not sure I expected that. Moraine is still with him, is she? A fine-looking woman. A fine woman. If she were not Aes Sedai, meddle with that sort and you get more than your fingers burned.
A fine woman, if she were only not Aes Sedai. So this is one of those spots of foreshadowing the relationship between Tom and Moraine that I think is very easy to read over if you're not reading carefully.
Yeah.
So when people say, "Hey, I didn't see that coming," that's because you didn't notice little comments by Tom and his little comments by Moraine.
He gets over the Aes Sedai thing.
He does. He's okay with it.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you expect Rand to be all right?
Mm-hmm.
Matt asked carefully. Do you know something that could harm him?
Do you perhaps know that he can channel and that he should probably be gentled by the Aes Sedai? Do you know that? No.
I know nothing, boy. I suspect more than is healthy for me, but I know nothing.
Nice.
I was wondering there if he means what he says, if he's saying like, I suspect a lot, but I really don't know, or if he's being purposefully vague.
It's Tom. No one has confirmed to him that Rand can channel, but he knows with as much assuredness as anyone who can think and understands Aes Sedai and the behaviors and what's going on.
He's a very perceptive man.
Yeah, he's a very perceptive man. And he's someone who was raised in the court of Cairhien, which is very friendly to channelers. So he has a lot of knowledge about women who can channel and Aes Sedai. So I'm certain about whatever I was certain about.
Tom knows?
Yes.
Suspect more than is healthy for me, but I know nothing.
Did I say Tom was raised in the court of Cairhien? I meant...
He's been around it.
He's been around the court of Camelin. Sorry, not Cairhien.
I think I feel like I've looked this up before. I think we don't know. Nobody knows where Tom is from.
There's some evidence he may originally be from the Borderlands.
Yeah?
But not just there's some early evidence that maybe he references a few things. But yeah, I always thought of him as an Andorran.
Well, he certainly lived there for a very long time.
And he just became court bard and master. But it would also make sense if he was from Cairhien, because then he would have the mastery of the game of houses. And that's where he would have gotten good at it. But I would think that maybe he and Moraine would talk about both being from Cairhien.
The Watt Wiki says he's Andorran.
Yeah, the Andoran makes more sense to me. House Bard to Tricand before the succession? Interesting. So he knew Rand's mother.
Mm-hmm. And Morghese had to go to war, right? It wasn't a peaceful secession.
Right.
I think.
Well, yeah. No, it definitely wasn't. When Tricand disappeared, there was no clear succession. So there was a succession war in Andor. That's what Elaine's always trying to avoid.
Rand's mom.
Tigraine.
But she's not a...
No, you're right. She's not Tricand. She's...
What's the surname again? It's so not important right now, but... Mantir?
Mantir. That's right. That's correct. Thank you.
Rand's mom was married to a Demodred.
So, I mean, technically her name could have been
And
Demodred.
Morghese was later married to the same man.
Right.
We have totally tried to explain this to people on previous episodes, and now we're like struggling to remember.
We've definitely figured it out at various points in time.
Yeah.
And it's just hard to keep in your head.
Yeah.
It's a very complicated family tree.
The ladies come back with 3 chickens, 3 roasted chickens for Matt.
And when they leave, they stare and sniff. All right, in or out? We got a sniff here.
Out.
I think this is an in.
Discord isn't quite agreeing either. Why are you here in Tarvalon, Tom? It's the last place I'd have expected to see you, the way you feel about Aes Sedai. I heard you were coining money in Cairhien, which I assume means like making literally making money. Like you were running a mint over there. I feel like that's what Matt's saying.
Tom's pretty good at forging stuff, so maybe. But I agree. I think he was just playing in all
making a ton of money.
Yeah, playing in all the inns, raking coins in, making a ton of money, playing in rich places over there.
Cairhien, the old gleeman muttered, the sharpness fading from his eyes again. Such trouble it causes killing a man, even when he deserves killing. He made a flourish with one hand and was holding a knife. Tom always had knives secreted about him. Drunk he might have been, but he held the blade steady enough. Kill a man who needs killing, and sometimes others pay for it. The question was it worth doing anyway? There's always a balance, you know. Good and evil, light and shadow. We would not be human if there wasn't a balance. Put that away, Matt growled a mouthful. I don't want to talk about killing.
So, 2 things to talk about there. One, this is one of the ways we know that Tom killed the king.
Yes.
Because he basically admits to it right here.
To killing someone.
Yes. And yeah, we know it's the king.
Yeah. Really, he killed a bunch of people in Cairhien, but
Right,
one of them was the king.
One of them happened to be the king. The other thing I want to talk about is that quote, there's always balance, you know, good and evil, light and shadow. We would not be human if there wasn't a balance.
That's Robert Jordan summing up the entire series in 15 words or less.
Right. If I had to say this series was about anything in particular, it's that there has to be a balance between good and evil. And that we have, as people, have to choose good in order to make things better. And that having the choice is what makes us human. And that point comes back over and over, especially in the last battle.
Yeah, in Rand's confrontation with the Dark One, that's the theme of the overarching theme of the whole confrontation.
It essentially describes why Rand cannot kill the Dark One. He has to imprison him.
Yeah.
There always has to be the option for people to find the Dark One again.
Yeah. I just asked why you're in Tarvalon. If you had to leave Cairhien because you killed someone, I do not want to know about it.
Because I just killed somebody out in the street 5 minutes ago. And I'm still a little nervous about that.
Matt also says, and there's more dialogue here, I'm skipping some over, but Matt also says, I never knew you to feel so sorry for yourself, Matt said disgustedly. Do you mean to drown yourself in wine? What do you know of it, boy? Tom snarled. Slurred, it should say.
What do you know of it, boy?
I don't know anything.
What a few years on you. See some of life, maybe I'll love a woman or two. Then you'll know.
That is word for word. That's pretty good. Then you'll know. You want to know why I'm in Tarvalon? Why are you in Tarvalon? It's word for word. That's the actual.
You nearly soiled yourself every time anybody mentioned the power. What are you doing in Tarvalon with us? I die on every side. I love doing drunk readings. We should do like entire books drunk readings.
Like drunk history, but drunk fantasy and science fiction.
Wonderful. What you have to do is the narrator totally straight, but every character like they're wasted.
I have this next couple paragraphs all marked off to read, and I can't remember why, so I'm just going to start. I'm leaving, Tarvalin. That's what I'm doing here, Matt's responding. Leaving, Matt grimaced. The Gleeman had saved his life, and maybe more. A fate had been involved. That was why Tom's right leg did not work as well as it should. There could not be enough wine on a ship to keep him this drunk. I'm going to Camelin, Tom. If you need to risk your fool life for some reason, why not come with me? Camelin? Tom thought musingly. Camelin, Tom. Elida will likely be going back there sooner or later, so you'd have her to worry about. And from what I remember, if Mergace puts her hands on you, you'll wish Elida had you. Camelin. Yes. Camelin would put Mahmood like a glove. The Gleeman glanced at the chicken platter and gave a start. What do you do, boy? Stuff them up your sleeve? There was nothing left of the three birds but bones and carcasses, with only a few strips of flesh remaining. Sometimes I get hungry, Matt muttered. It was an effort not to lick his fingers. Are you coming with me or not? Oh, I will come, boy. As Tom pushed himself to his feet, he did not seem as unsteady as he had been. You wait here, and try not to eat the table, while I get my things and say some goodbyes. He limped away, not staggering once.
Try not to eat the table. I think this was one of the scenes you read for me back when we started the book as one of your favorite scenes. We were like rereading the book, and you were like, dude, check this scene out.
Did I?
I don't know.
I really like it.
You really like it.
I was like chuckling to myself the whole way through this chapter and the next one.
I think it's just great comedy.
Yeah, and they're really funny together. These two particular characters are both kind of...
There's a fair number of characters who play a straight man to Matt's goofy. Talmanis is definitely one. Tom is another.
Yeah.
And they really make his interactions fun because of the way he doesn't admit to himself his own motivations, and these guys see it and sarcastically are like, sure you're not trying to help the women. Like, it's just... Again, I've said this a million times, what he does does not match what he says, which does not match what he thinks.
Right.
So the characters who are truly perceptive of that really enjoy calling him out on it. And that's very funny to me.
That's a fun thing to keep an eye out for. And I feel like I like this scene in particular, though, because Matt is acting really straight-laced. Like, he's scared stiff right now. Like, he just walked out of that crazy situation where he almost died, and then accidentally murdered a man, or maybe did it on purpose. And he's like, his head's reeling. He's acting really straight-laced, and Tom's just like, what do you know? Which is like, non-typical. The roles are kind of reversed here.
That's true. Although Matt is still acting a little strange in that he the funniest part for me is he's like eating 3 chickens, 3 whole
while
chickens
while
Tom's like ranting, and Tom looks up and he's like just drunk enough to be like, what the hell? Like, what did you do with those birds? You couldn't have eaten them.
The next thing I have is the younger of the two women, Saul, stopped Matt as he reached the door. Whatever you said to him, I forgive you for the wine, even if it is taking him away. I've not seen him this alive in weeks. Which is weirdly sad and exciting because, he's been really depressed. And the reason he's excited is so that he can go, like, be skinned alive in Camelin.
Right.
Like, the only reason Matt was able to convince him to go is because he's so, like, self-loathing right now that the only places he wants to be is where nobody wants him.
But I also think, I agree with you there.
But
I think there's another layer to it, which is that he really feels like a big part of Tom's motivation is he wants to help boys like Owen.
Yeah.
And Matt is giving him a chance to help out another boy of that age. And Tom sees that as a reason to start living life again, which is to say he can be useful. Tom
some kind
needs
of purpose
to feel useful.
Yeah.
Tom would be such a good warder.
Yeah.
Because he would always feel useful to the Aes Sedai he was helping.
Him and Moraine are going to make such a great pair.
Oh my God. Power couple.
Man. Elaine should keep them around.
Next Amerlin seat, Moraine Sedai.
After Catswain?
Yeah. I mean, Catswain's pretty old. I don't think she wants to be around for very long. And Moraine's already gaining a reputation. The only issue is she's not super powerful, but she has that ridiculous Angreal.
She does. And she also has the Silver Fox. The king and queen of doesn't he get that named that nickname at some point?
Yeah, I think so.
The king and queen of Daimar.
He was that's his old name from when he was the bard.
A court bard.
Yeah. Not to mention they've got friends in high places.
Yeah.
Elaine, Perrin,
the
Matt,
Queen of Kyrian and Andor, the Queen of Malkier will probably doesn't hate her so much anymore.
Yeah, she did the whole hugging her and saying thank you.
Lan, her old warder, as the king of Malkier.
Pretty much in charge of the Borderlands at this point. I think she'll be okay.
Perrin, King of the West, or whatever you want to call it. King of the Two Rivers.
And like Matt, who's really King of the West.
Sean Chan.
Yep. The North and the South and the West.
Boy.
Will be as one. The North and the East will be as one.
Let's see, where did I leave off here?
The girls they return a silver Tarvalin mark to him.
Yeah.
Tell him he's got nice eyes. I'm sure his eyes look really nice in those pants.
And they just wander out of the inn, and Matt's laughter shut off like the last drip of wine from a barrel. Tom was there, but the corpse was not.
I think his dark friend buddies grabbed him, made off with the body. They didn't want to explain where he came from. And
I think that's a thing that I've never really thought about it before, but when you kill a gray man, if you walk away and come back, it seems to never be there.
It's a good point.
They have a way of disappearing.
Either there's other gray men there or possibly Slayer disappearing the bodies.
Maybe, yeah. I feel like it could be any number of things. But gray men are always part of a much more convoluted plot. It's never just a gray man out on its own.
Well, they have no initiative.
Yeah, they're
soulless creatures.
Mm-hmm. I don't imagine they have a lot of intellect.
I imagine they're an awful lot like the people who have been turned, the channelers who have been turned.
I was kind of...
They have a cleverness to them, but they're missing something. The creativity that is their most vital part.
And we do see later that, I'm drawing a long conclusion here. I don't know if this is accurate, really accurate or what, but we see that later the Dark doesn't really want turned channelers. It's a last resort. They're less useful. Valoran saying...
They're almost like...
I think she was talking about gray men, but they'd have a handler that's nearby, a gray man.
Sure, yeah.
But I figure turn channelers are sort of the same. Like, they're powerful tools, but they're tools.
Right.
Without someone to direct them, like, what's a hammer, really?
Without...
Warder? A what?
A warder?
Sort of, yeah.
Hammer? Never mind.
Oh, I get it.
A warder killed by Gawain? What's a hammer?
Hammer with 2 A's, guys. Sorry.
No more puns, I mean it.
What are you staring at, boy? Tom asked. No Trollocs in those shadows. Footpads, Matt muttered. I was thinking about footpads. No street thieves or strong arms in Tarvalin either, boy. When the guards take a footpad, not that many try that game here. The word spreads. But when they do, they haul him to the tower. And whatever it is the eye said I'd do to him, the fellow leaves Tarvalon the next day as wide-eyed as a goosed girl. I understand they're even harder on women caught thieving. No, the only way you'll have your money stolen here is somebody selling you polished brass for gold or using shaved dice. There are no footpads. Matt turned on his heel and strode past Tom, heading toward the docks, quarterstaff thumping on the cobblestones as if he could push himself ahead faster. We're going to be on the first ship sailing, whatever it is. The first, Tom.
I got 3 things there.
Sure, yeah.
What are the Aes Sedai doing to the criminals who were taken? They put them in the chair of remorse, which we later see used by the group that's hunting the Black Oddjaw in the White Tower.
Oh, wow. I forgot about that. I remember the chair, but not the Black Oddjaw hunt.
So they take... they finally find one of the Black Oddjaw, and they want her to forswear the oaths, and she won't. And they subject her to the chair of remorse until she agrees. And they don't. It's what do they put you on the chair and it plays back your worst crimes to you. And so, like, if you're innocent, it's not quite as big of a deal.
I'll look it up to see how much we know about it. I don't remember that much, except that it's used in that way. The chair is a rectangular, marble gray block that is hard as steel except for the top, which molds itself around the person seated upon it. Weird. There's a small hole on one side filled with tiny, unevenly spaced notches. Channeling into the hole on the side forces the person seated on the chair to experience possible consequences of their crimes, and can be used to both torture and punish.
And a lot of people mistake this chair for a chair of binding, but it is not. It doesn't actually bind the criminal. It just scares them.
Yeah. A chair of binding makes you do a thing. It's like compulsion.
Random follow-up note in the middle of another podcast. I was looking at chapter headers. Lanfear's Moon and Stars belt looks an awful lot like the Moon and Stars symbol for Codswain's headpiece when she shows up.
Here's another thing to Google. What does the Moon and Stars do on Codswain's headpiece? A double terengriel in the shape of two intertwined crescent moons, facing one another and overlapping. They function like Matt's foxhead medallion, causing flows directed at Codswain to dissipate, and also warning that someone close is embracing the power. They become cold, but did not distinguish between Saidin and Saidar, though they worked on and warned of both. Oh, here's another one. Oh, there's a bunch of stars. A terengriel in the shape of an 8-pointed star, with 4 long and 4 short wavy rays, detects the ability of a man to channel within a distance, 30 or 40 paces. In the shape of a 6-pointed star, when triggered, forms a thin armor against the skin of the wearer. This protection is invisible, except to whoever is using it. And then there's another moon, a full moon disk with a part of chiseled, leaving a brightly burnished crescent. Its use is unknown.
So it's mostly just based on the visual similarity. I just posted both of those chapter headers in the Discord, and you can see it's a moon with 5 stars and then 2-star earrings with a moon. But I can just see how I just see this as more evidence for Lanfear having some sort of paralysis net. What the individual terengriel do, we're not really sure. I do think it's some of that low-level compulsion.
Yeah. It could very well be. I just read what is known of Codswain's paralysis net, but I see what you're getting at, because there's 2 different moon-shaped ones and 2 different star-shaped ones, and they each do something different, presumably. One's unknown. Yeah, I like that. I feel like that's really easy to get behind and go with the theory that her belt is some kind of
paralysis net.
Yeah.
And what
or
the
something
individual
like it.
items do, we're not really sure.
And later, Nynaeve has a belt as well.
That's true. And that looks very different from Codswain's.
Yeah.
She's got the little barrel on her belt.
Mm-hmm. The barrel of the one power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's a well on the belt, but isn't it also... Is that connected to... Because she also has like a bunch of rings that all have chains between them or something like that, right?
I thought they were all connected. Yeah.
Are they all connected?
I don't feel like they need a physical connection to be connected. They just need to be part of a set.
Yeah. Or, they could just be different terengriel she's using them, and she's using them together.
And it just occurred to me that you could have a paralysis net that, like, maybe you could wear the items, put them up in your hair in a bun, or around your waist in a belt, or on your hands like rings. Like, maybe it doesn't have to be just one way.
Probably.
So anyway, that was a random digression, not having anything to do with this chapter whatsoever.
I just have the last couple lines as a readout. Tom's stick clicked hurriedly after Matt. Slow down, boy. What's your hurry? There are plenty of ships, sailing day and night. Slow down, there aren't any footpads here. The first bloody ship, Tom. If it's sinking, we'll be on it. If they weren't footpads, what were they? They had to be thieves. What else could they be?
Dark friends.
Assassins just for you, kid.
I'd also like to make a point of the first bloody ship is an act of randomness, which is always good for Matt.
Yeah, that's true.
He acts randomly, and he ends up on a ship that gets him down to...
I don't care if it's sinking, we're getting on it.
And it's the perfect ship for him. He gets right where he wants to go.
Yeah. Yeah, milk drinker. I always thought, like, what is that? How is that an insult? I mean,
I feel like it's calling someone a baby.
I can see that now. I just had the thought that, and here's something I probably shouldn't say out loud, but every time someone like comes into the restaurant and they're like a grown ass man and they order a glass of milk, I'm like, what are you doing, man? That's like, I always have that thought, like, milk. It's 3 p.m. I'm not sure. I understand.
Partially it's because I discovered I was relatively lactose intolerant, and that's the reason that I've been so gassy most of my life. But partially I just don't drink milk anymore. So why would I sit down and order a glass of milk? Like, it would make me feel terrible.
It's and also, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm also a little lactose and I avoid definitely drinking fresh stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But it just feels to me like it's more like a baking ingredient than like a drink. You know?
Fair. Yeah. I mean, it goes really well with cereal.
That's definitely true. No doubt about that. Although a good load of almond milk and some granola can be pretty awesome in my opinion.
And the other thing I really love is I like a little milk in my coffee.
Fair.
Not all coffee. A little bit of milk in my black tea.
Oh, Englishy.
Yeah.
I think they do that. Do they do that? Am I just making that up?
I feel like they do either lemon or milk. Who does lemon?
I like lemon.
I thought lemon was more British.
Black tea. Yeah. Jules is definitely more of a mocha person than I just go in there and, iced cold brew is what I usually ask for now. And I feel like now that I'm old and crotchety, no, not really, but your taste buds really do change. And I like something that's like has a powerful amount of sugar in it kind of grosses me out now. Yep. I really don't like it.
I'm right there with you. Unless I'm like indulging and like eating candy.
I was so mad the other day. I went to the like expensive bodega on Prescott over here, the one I'm talking about. And I was just like cruising by and I was like, it's freaking hot out. I'm going to grab myself like cold plain seltzer water, right? It should be like 99 cents in a bottle. Walk in. It's like $3.26. I'm like, whatever, fine. I buy the thing, walk out, crack it, take a sip. And it's like corn syrup. I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Just soda water with sugar in it. It's awful. I was so mad.
Carbonated simple syrup.
Just paid $3.26 for something I'm going to throw in the garbage.
Might as well just get tonic water.
I did drink it. I did end up drinking it, but like on what you were saying, like that's like 350 calories of something that I didn't even want.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I just wanted some water. That's all.
Fizzy water's nice, but I kind of picked that up working in bars. If you have fizzy water and bitters and lime juice and fun stuff like that, then I'll drink a soda. But it's got to be like a...
Those are hardly sodas. Those are
soda water with lime juice and bitters is like, slightly alcoholic too.
It is?
Bitters are like 50%. I mean, it's a few dashes, so it's... Right. I can't say I've ever felt anything from that.
I think of those as more of a tincture than really alcohol.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Did you have a good 4th of July?
Yeah, it was nice. I went to a barbecue at Jules' brother and his wife's house. It's like out on the edge of the city. They have a nice big yard and an adorable 8-month-old golden retriever who's like 75 pounds now. I don't know. I'm sure I showed you some of the pictures from like, a few months ago.
Yeah.
And she was like, you could just hold her in one hand. You know?
Gigantic now.
She's like as big as Timber.
Right.
She'll probably get a little bigger too because she's only 8 months old.
I visited my parents as well, and they actually got an 8-week-old puppy.
Oh, just now?
Just now, named Skylar. So they've
Wait, do they have 4 dogs now? Oh, wait, 3 dogs now because one of the older ones. 2? I thought they had the 2 older dogs. They both died?
They both died.
Oh,
they were both put down.
That was really recently, though.
That was. And like one went right after the other.
Oh, that happens sometimes.
They lived their whole lives together, and one got put down, and within a month, the other one got sick and had to be put down.
I don't know if this is scientific or not, but they say that happens with human beings, too, and I'd like to believe it. When one goes, the other goes.
Right.
They've been living together for, 60 years. Or 60 dog years, whatever.
Right. Yeah, longer than that.
It's like,
And when
It's a
because
bummer.
they were sisters, they were born together.
No, that's right.
The other dog they had is a I don't want to say a foster, but it's a dog being trained for the blind and deaf. So they're
Oh,
taking care of it only for its first year.
oh, I used to work for a family that did that. It was so nice.
Yeah.
You get a new puppy like once a year.
Right. So this new puppy is actually their new dog.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so they had one. So of the 4 dogs, there was the 2 older ones who passed away. The 7th-month-old, who's a foster dog, and then the new puppy, who's their new dog.
Didn't they wait until somewhere around a year to take them for the serious training?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, they definitely they take Marla to training once a week, and so she gets, puppy training, and they are well trained. They have rules to follow, so they're working on a fair amount of training even before one. But yeah, right around one they take them away and go into some serious, like, you have to learn all of this stuff.
Yeah, the family I worked for, they ran a farmer's market. I feel like I might have told this story on the podcast before. But they ran a farmer's market that I worked at when I was a kid, and they did that for the seeing eye, raised dogs for the blind. And they, after a couple of years, I don't know how it works out here because I think all the organizations are a little different, but there's a deal where if the dog fails the training for whatever reason, you get first dibs. And they took one after a couple of years. She was a black lab, and she was afraid of like very loud noises. She would just like lay down.
That'll disqualify you.
Yeah. But that was it. That was like the only reason she failed this in complex training is because if there was like a thunder crack, she would just lay down on the ground, which is like, fine for a dog that hangs around the yard all day.
Yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong, my parents would not be upset if the dog failed its training. They had to keep her. Oh no!
Darn.
Yeah. There would not be a lot of hesitation there. They would snap her right up.
Oh yeah, and then they get this serious training, so they got back like a fully trained guide dog that was just
Totally
couldn't handle being in the proximity of a Harley Davidson. It's the only problem.
But I got to tell you, pet in the belly of an 8-week-old puppy and smelling its puppy breath is awesome. Puppy breath, one of my top 3 smells. Puppy breath and, what's the name of the smell that occurs after rain?
The name of it?
Yeah.
I don't know what the name of it is, but
P.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Pedicore? Oh, wow. That somehow sounds like the smell. Pedicore.
Pedicore? Puppy
Soft
breath.
PD. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the scent before rain is ozone? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
This is the smell after rain. So pedicore is actually the smell of bacteria. That there's bacteria that live pretty much everywhere, and once rain hits them.
Someone told me once it just has to do with like things mulching and like the sense of decomposition,
The smell after rain?
Yeah. Oh, ozone electrical smell. I like that. It does kind of smell like welding a little. Like if someone was welding 2 rooms down. Kind of smell the sharp smell or grinding metal.
When a raindrop lands on a porous surface, air from the pores forms small bubbles which float to the surface and release aerosols. Such aerosols carry the scent as well as bacteria and viruses from the soil.
Well, like releases pockets of gas from the decomposition of... Because it's definitely the same as the smell of like when the snow melts in the springtime in a forest that's covered, it like has the thick leaves on the ground. It smells like good rot. I don't really know how to say good rot.
Coming back to Portland after visiting Southern Oregon, it's amazing how much more it smells like home here than it does elsewhere.
Yeah.
Every place has its own smell.
Those kind of things are a lot of what convinced me at first to stay in Portland when I moved here from the Northeast. It like looks the same, the weather's similar. It doesn't get as cold, it doesn't get as humid. But it's like things look the same to me. Like this looks like a town, like one of the towns I grew up in, Portland. Like people have yards, but they're small.
Yeah.
And there's like, street parking only.
That is very northeast.
Yeah.
I mean, the coasts have limited space.
Mm-hmm.
Coasts is a hard word to say.
Coasts. Remember Space Ghost, Coast to Coast?
I do.
Sometimes I think cartoons like that are what made me a weird adult. Staying up all night watching that weird stuff.
I think you're mixing up correlation with causation.
Could very well be. I found myself re-watching an old interview recently. I can't remember. Somebody linked me, and I just watched a whole Space Ghost interview. Stuff was weird. I can't believe I watched that when I was a little kid.
It was kind of weird. But
it was really weird.
So our parents were like, yeah, go ahead. That's my whole thing with Ren and Stimpy, is like now looking back on that, like, who let me watch that?
That is like, that should be R-rated.
Some dirty stuff.
Weird stuff. Where is it? Minus 40 in July.
Ontario on the lake. Canada side or America side?
I thought you were going to say like the South Pole for a second. I know a guy that went to work down in one of the science stations there.
Down by the boardwalk.
There's like a couple hundred people that live in a building in the middle of the tundra. And you just live there. I thought that would be interesting. It kind of made me want to do it. You sign a contract for like to live there for a certain amount of months. I think you have to get a psychiatric evaluation. Make sure you're not going to crack. Be stuck out there. Crazy stuff.
I feel like all we'd have to say is, I read the Wheel of Time, and they'd be like, oh yeah, you can deal with long, extended times of stimulation. You'll be fine.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?